Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Julie Mann, and I show people how they can live healthy, happy, sustainable lives by changing their habits and using cutting edge products to help them age well. And today I'm ever so pleased because I'm joined by Andy Reddy. And I heard Andy speak at a networking event, I think it was, Andy, and I was totally blown away by what you had to say. So I just thought, I've got to get Andy on here to talk to you. So, Andy, I'm going to hand straight over to you. I know you're going to be talking about habits for neurodiversity, aren't you?
That's correct, yeah.
Great. Look forward to hearing it.
Okay. So I think before I start and say anything, I've got to just identify neurodiversity, because I think it's this sort of umbrella term which there's lots of different things attached to it. So under neurodiversity, you have autism, ADHD, dyspraxia, dyslexia, Tourette syndrome, and there's quite a few other sort of conditions underneath that. And the important thing about this sort of movement is it's this movement away from the pathology, of which originally you go to the doctors and you get sort of a diagnosis which implies that there's something wrong with you. So actually neurodiversity is implying that you think differently, and making people more aware of that. So being asked, how does that impact you? I'm quite happy with saying that I've got quite severe dyslexia. I've got a son who's autistic. So I've sort of seen very different um, things impact myself and my son. And so I sort of want to talk on an umbrella term, and it's very clear to say that people are different and situations affect people differently. So I'm being very broad. So I think the first thing is sort of managing anxiety levels. So often what people don't see with when people are neurodiverse is that they are affected. They can be affected on their senses, and they can have hyposensitivity, which means that they need stimulating, or they need hypersensitivity, which means that um, they need sort of support in other areas. So I find with managing that anxiety is that you need to first of all think about in your day actually what's going to make you anxious. So if your day is not planned out and it's sort of everywhere, and you haven't got a timetable and you don't know what's happening, or you feel out of control, then those anxiety levels can be impacted. So the problem with anxiety is that if we are impacted with anxiety, then our brain is affected, and our amygdala, which is our fight or flight response in the middle of our brain, releases cortisol, and then actually we can't use the prefrontal context of our cortex of our brain. So that means that we can't do that sort of higher thinking. So my first advice is by actually looking at what's going to make you stressed. So, for example, for me, coming on to this situation, I was feeling stressed. So I was like, right, what can I do to control that? And so what I did is that I sort of made notes onto what I want to have key points in this that I want to talk about. So then I don't feel stressed, and then that obviously will bring down my stress levels. So for somebody like my son, where he's affected by noise, he has to get a bus to work, or to college when he goes to college. So he will always wear his headphones, because actually that will take out and drown out other noises. So then that will help him feeling less stressed. So that, I would say, the first thing is managing those anxiety levels, because if your anxiety levels are out of control, then you can't focus on anything else, and then actually that stops you from doing anything else. The next thing is, for me, is planning and organizing your time. So, and I sort of that obviously contributes to the anxiety. So that is using diaries. So I will, in my life, I will diary everything in my Google diary. I will also then color code. So I've got clear, when I look at my diary straight away, I can see that if something is green, it means this. If something's red, it means this. I will then, with those that organization of time, I will actually have time frames that I will expect myself to do things in, but I will also manage those times. So if often part of my thinking is that I end up thinking I can do tasks too quickly or not enough time. So actually what I have to do is I have to build timers in my life to make sure that it's appropriate, and then revisit that to make sure that I'm then not putting myself in a situation where I'm expecting to be able to do more. And so I'm always revisiting that to make sure that I do that. And then now it's really lucky with, in the world that we're in, there's some great apps. So I use an app called Trello, which it's basically you can put in different, it's like a lists app, but you can put timers on it. It can give you feedback. So it really means that I can, in my time, I can manage my time. So, and I will start and end my every week with looking at that, so I know when I finish my week on a Friday, that then I will be able to go, right, I'm doing these things for next week, so then I don't have that anxiety in the weekend. And I think that's really key. The next one is sort of building on strengths. So what often happens is, if you're a neurodiverse person, you grow up and you live in this neurotypical world, in effect. And so often you feel and see your challenges all the time. So mine is like with lots of reading and writing. So if I do lots of tasks of reading and writing, actually that impacts my anxiety levels, and also impacts how I feel and my stress levels. So I have to build in things that I know is my hyper focus, which will make me feel good about myself. So the key parts of like my business is working with other people, and actually when I don't do that, actually, and I'm doing all the social media stuff that you almost need to do, to get people to be aware of you, that if I don't organize that week properly, then actually that impacts me. So I love like doing things like this where I'm talking and speaking, but as soon as I've got to do all this sort of reading and writing, then actually that's going to make me feel negative about myself. So I really sort of concentrate on that. And then with that, on to build that strength, then using supportive technologies. So again, for me, with my dyslexia, I will use things like Dragon Speak, which is a bit of software so I can dictate into it. And I will use Gold Read and Write, so that will look at my spellings and change that and do all the information, and also it can give me information back. And also now software like Word, even in the top corner, they have Read Aloud, which is just a button you press on Word, and what it will do is it will read all your bits back to you. So with my dyslexia, I'll look at things, I'll read it, and I think I've spelt it wrong, spelt it all right, or it's in the right order, and then I read it back and it's not. So by having some technology to support me will then give me information which will then support me understanding myself and making sure that I can put those changes, which will then help me with making sure that I'm managing my anxiety levels. And then so the final two things is being aware of yourself. So I would say ensure that you've got a support network of people who understand you around you. So with myself, my wife's amazing. She'll check my work if I ask her to. She'll if she knows I'm getting anxious, she knows me. So she'll be like, right, what do you need to do? What do you need to put in place? What is it? She'll go through with me. And it's really important now in the working world. And this is why for me, I really want to get out and speak to more companies, is having the support network of people who understand you and get you to have that hyper focus so that you can work on your strengths, which will be then good in a company situation. And again, it's the same with my son who's autistic. He often will go to work and he will need to come home and he will literally just need to offload. And often we end up being that person for him to offload, because with his communication and his understanding, sometimes that means he can find things difficult to understand. So he needs to have that conversation. And then the sort of final thing is, I would say, is ensuring that you don't isolate yourself. So it's very easy with all these things. If you're infected by your senses and anxiety levels and things like that, it's easy. The first thing to do is isolate. And actually, the best thing to do is create that space and time in your life where you can have those things that you want to do, where you can relieve that anxiety level. So that could be That could be going and meditating, that could be going for a run, that could be spending time with other people. But it's creating those areas of release, so you're not just isolated. So then obviously that you have the opportunity to then ensure that you manage yourself during that time.
Thank you so much, Andy. Oh my goodness, it's amazing what's out there when you know about it to support people's differences, isn't it? And I think it really is, you know, in the world that we're in, there are a lot of people who are experiencing all the things you were talking about. It's really great to hear you talk about how we can kind of be more inclusive, and I've learned stuff, and you've reminded me that actually it'd be a really good idea for me to get my phone set up with an online diary and color code it. So thank you so much. I know that this will speak to a lot of people. So if this is your first experience of Andy, please check him out. You know, maybe you want to book him, maybe you're in a company, you want to book him, but please check out the links below this video. Everything that you need will be on there so you can get in touch with him. My link will be there as well. And all there is to say is, Andy, thank you ever so much for talking to us. And
Thank you.
thank you all for watching.